So you want to learn Strider for the NES. You probably learned about this game from Darkman's tutorial on HDQ in 2018, where he taught Jimmy Poopins how to speedrun it in just under half an hour. It worked extremely well, and as you can see, the community blew up to the point where today we have over 200 times on the speedrun.com leaderboard. Since then, with all the new runners, we have found a lot more techniques and paths that will lower the time down to just over 3 minutes and 34 seconds. I go by Mr. Magnificent. I'm an active member in the Strider Discord and community, and I wanted to compile all the advice that helped me the most. So, let's get started. Starting with the simplest way of getting Strider to run, as a PC user, I recommend using the FCE-UX emulator, though there are several other alternatives out there, some that work for Apple products as well. Regarding the ROM, I won't tell you where to find it, but I'm sure it won't be too hard. Personally, I prefer to have my inputs displayed for both analyzing my runs later and showing others what I'm doing. To turn that on, under the config, choose the display, input display, and then turn on one player. It'll look like this. Now for splits, I use LiveSplit. It has a lot of options and customizability, so it's my favorite program out there. You can just download it from their site. I'll also link it in the description alongside the FCE-UX download. But for the most convenient part, I think, is the autosplitter. Huge shout out to Devil Squirrel from the Discord for both creating the autosplitter and helping us find all the configs. Installing is simple. Just follow the link below and download the LiveSplit Nestopia DLL and copy it into the LiveSplit components folder. Once you've done that, just reopen LiveSplit and edit your layout to add the new Control Nestopia Autosplitter. Double-clicking on the autosplitter will open the config and you can add all the appropriate split points. I'll post the ones most of the community uses in the description as well as on the screen, but feel free to mess around and create new ones as you see fit. And with that, we should be all ready to go. So, let's start with... Let's go over some of the techniques you'll be using throughout the run. First, slashing. You might think it's silly to even mention it, and you might notice that as a pattern with this game. But you need to learn the specific rhythm to get the most slashes in the least amount of time. If you mash the B button too fast, the game will start dropping attacks. So finding just the right pattern to get the maximum amount of damage is the key. I recommend using the visual and audio clues. You should hear the noise for each slash as well as see the animation. If you're going too fast, there will be a blank space in between. Jump storage. Strider has a mechanic where using jump storage, you can get extra height and I believe an extremely small amount of extra speed on the order of frames if done perfectly. The way to do this is to neutral jump, and then once you're off the ground, you start holding a direction. Once done, it will stay stored until the next time you jump or fall off something. To use it, you press the jump as you are falling off a platform, but before you hit the floor. This is also known as box jump, because it is most used on the two boxes at the very beginning of the Kazakh level. Pipe jump. You can leave pipes early and get a boosted jump. When you are about 3/4 of the way down a pipe, press and hold the direction you want to exit the pipe, and press A just before Strider begins to exit it. Timing is a little finicky, but with a bit of practice, it'll happen just about every time. Wall zip or wall clip. This is what will make or break your runs at first. The basic idea is that you will be moonwalking into a wall until you're far enough in that Strider will actually just zip up the wall and wrap around the screen. The screen proceeds to move down farther and you will have access to a part of the map you would otherwise not be able to get to. The steps to doing this are to hold down and away from the wall. Then press towards the wall and then pause in the very next frame. If you were fast enough, Strider will be in the middle of an animation walking away from the wall. Then, once again, pressing down and away and unpausing to start repeating the process. You want to be far enough into the wall that Strider looks like this image I'm showing you. Note the position of his hair. Once you have that position, hold the direction into the wall and the zip will begin. Usually you'll want to move away from the wall immediately after the first wrap finishes, but I'll go more into detail when we are talking about the level route. Breaking it down a little further, first, let's talk about setting up the best starting position. If you have the slide ability, sliding into the wall and then starting the moonwalk process will give you great positions, often needing only 2, if not just 1 moonwalk to get in far enough. Unfortunately, in the first level, you don't have slide yet, so you'll have to walk into the wall before starting the process. Finally, these zip setups can go wrong in a couple of ways. If you try to zip without being far enough into the wall, it will just spit you back out. And sometimes, even if you set up the zip correctly, you'll get stuck in this glitch state I'm showing, and unfortunately you'll have to exit the wall and start again. I haven't been able to figure out exactly why this happens, so if you know, just send me a message. My best advice is to just practice this, both to the left and to the right, as these will be the things you do the most and they will differentiate a good run and a bad run for a long time. And one last thing I'll talk about with these. This is some extra information I'm not sure anyone can actually use in RTA, but when Strider is walking into the wall, he actually follows a very set pattern that will determine where your first down and away will put him. It starts with a 3 distance pattern, followed by the same 3 distance pattern, and then finally a shorter 2 distance pattern. These alternate extremely quickly, but if you were somehow accurate enough to pick the 3rd, the 6th, or the 8th frame of this dance, you will consistently have less distance to moonwalk. Sliding. After you get to Australia, you will have a slide for the rest of the run. You can do this by pressing down and either right or left and then A. There's a timing to it. If you initiate the next slide just as the first one is ending, Strider will not stop moving. It's undoubtedly the fastest movement option, but it does have a couple of quirks. First, you can't slide up a slope. Simple enough. Another one is, sliding down a slope can cause a couple of glitches and have you bouncing between the end of the slope and the floor, but this won't stop us from using it at least once. One last thing you should do is practice slashing during a slide. As you are sliding, if you release down and then slash, then press down soon after, you will slash during your slide without losing any momentum. There's one place in the run where this is the most useful, and I can theorize one more, but that will be in the advanced section. Boss fights. You'll be fighting 3 bosses in this game. 2 iterations of the Zane Terminal, and Yggdrasil, which was the final boss, but he'll be a different story. Both times you fight the Zane Terminal, he will have the exact same pattern. First, you must walk past his fight trigger, which is in this position for the first fight, and on the symmetrical point on the right side for the second. Now, a box will spawn over his head that will move in a circle around the room. When it's at the very top of the room, it will shoot down projectiles, but if you follow the strategies I'll go over in the route section, this should never be an issue. Your goal is to kill this box before it manages to have a full cycle around the room. The way of doing that is different for each iteration of the boss, so I'll leave that for the route section as well. Once the box has been destroyed, the boss will start attacking you himself. He throws small white circles that explode towards your current position. The amount of damage these attacks do depend on where on the screen you are. If you are generally to the left or below his head, they will do 2 damage. If you are off to the right of the screen, they will do 10 damage. Careful with the explosions when they hit the floor. To attack him, you will be up striking by holding up and jumping into him. This is the most damage, but you can also jump slash if up striking is too dangerous or Strider is out of position. This is generally his hitbox, but as this is Strider, I have seen attacks connect from outside the box and some attacks miss from within. With all that out of the way, let's start talking about the route. The first thing after booting up the game is an unskippable 30-second cutscene that you just have to mash A to get through the text. Then, transfer to the first area called Kazakh. You'll see this over and over, and so you'll get to know the lines very well, and it's even all been memed in the Discord. You can also use B to skip through the text, so another option is to just alternate between A and B. Just remember to start smashing only A as the transfer screen comes up, or else you'll cancel out. Right off the bat, you can box jump. Go towards the right and walk past these 2 green enemies. Don't kill them, as if you do, they will respawn and cause some lag. Don't worry about the damage. Jump up this hill, don't walk as that's significantly slower. Then walk down the other side, kill this red guy, and go down the pipe. From here, pipe jump to the left and set up this box jump. keep holding left, walking past these enemies, and you'll fall down this hole. Holding left as you fall, when you hit the ground, kill the guy you run into. Now, at the wall, you'll have to do the first wall zip of the run. This left zip will put you into the room below, where you'll immediately walk off the platform and jump, as you'll have jump storage. For some extra style points, if you time this right, you'll zip horizontally through this pipe. Jump up this following hill and over the bomb throwing enemy, and if you are under 11 HP, there is a backup health pack right here, as you will need to take 10 damage for the quick boss kill. Kill this last guy and go down the pipe, but don't pipe jump this time. You'll run into this robot. He takes 10 slashes to kill, but due to his invincibility frames, if you're slashing at the fastest speed, an attack might miss. Be careful with your spacing as well, because with your current HP, this guy can one-shot you. Once you've killed him, walk into the room on the left, and you'll have reached the first boss of the run. Trigger the fight and immediately start moving to the right, setting up most of the way to the right of the screen. Hold up and jump to upstrike the box coming at you, and if you time this right, you should be able to hit it, but not get hit back. Now, keep holding up and let the box come down and hit you. Similar to using a damage boost, use this time to start slashing at the box, following him all the way to the left side of the screen. If your slashing pattern was good, just hold up below the box as it starts to rise, and that last upstrike should immediately kill it. But if he's still alive, just jump after for another hit. If the box gets out of range, you'll have missed the one cycle, and probably either need to work on your slashing rhythm or work on your spacing for this fight. In that case, chase it to the other side and keep attacking for the 2 cycle, but careful as you can't afford to get hit again. Now with the box dead, you will start attacking Yggdrasil directly. Upstrike his hitbox, releasing up and dodging when a circle gets launched at you. Repeat until he dies, which should take around 8 upstrikes. You can also pepper in some regular slashes if you end up too far left or right of him. When he dies, you will have gained the slide ability. A file will drop for you to pick up, generally about that slide distance away, so I tend to set up on the left side of the screen, and when the level up animation is done, slide to the right and let the file drop on me. Jumping up for the file will make the animation take longer, so just let it fall onto you. One final note is that after killing this Yggdrasil, Strider might actually get stuck in place and not able to move left or right. During this, you might actually get hit by a remaining attack of his and die. And if you die before picking up the file, you'll have to restart the entire run from scratch. Unfortunately, the only advice I can really give you is just to be aware of it and do what you can to avoid any incoming circles or explosions with jumps if this does end up happening. It will likely kill at least one run for you. To unlock Australia, analyze the file you just picked up. After the text is over, Australia will now be unlocked in the transfer menu. It is 1 to the right. If you do end up selecting the wrong stage, just walk all the way to the left and jump, or select the warp ability in the select menu. Both of these will send you back to the ship. There are 2 ways of doing the intro to Australia. The first is when jumping up the hill, have the last jump be a jump storage. As you're landing, kill the red guy, slide, and jump once you fall off of your column. This will give you enough height to skip the second column entirely. From there, now you have to make the third jump, which is a very tight jump, so make sure you time it correctly. The second way, which I personally do because it's safer, is to not set up jump storage until you're jumping off the second column and then walk off the third column and use your jump storage to clear the large pit. This way you don't have to make the type jump at all and you'll be moved on to the next part. If you do fall into the spikes for whatever reason, walk to the right as close to the wall as you can, turn to face away from the wall, and use the damage boost from the spikes to get put into the wall. Now turn towards the wall and you'll begin a wall zip on the column and exit the zip on top of it. This is time consuming and damages you, but might save a decent run. Run down the following hill and jump over the enemy, leaving him alive. It's a difficult skip here that I will address in the advanced section, but for now, get next to the door, then turn to face him. Let him shoot you, and using that damage boost to get through the door behind you. Then, also let the second bullet hit you to damage boost through the second door. After you clear the full door, turn right again, and head down the pipe. Pipe jump here to save climbing this hill, and slide down the other side. Walk through these spikes, and kill the small spike enemies blocking the path. Careful when sliding into the spikes though, as if you're not in the right position, they might bounce you about, losing some time. Slide through the gap and enter the pipe on the left. This leads you to the next section of the stage. Drop down and then head to the right. Slide slash through these spike enemies, and in the next room, if you're under 15 HP, here's the backup health pack you can grab. Do be careful, as there's a poison pack almost right next to it. Go down the pipe, and now wall zip on this wall to the right. Use your slide to set up the zip better. Here, Strider will be crouched in the wall to indicate you're ready to zip. As you're about to wrap the screen, make sure you're not holding any buttons. After you fall into the room below, neutral jump, as Strider will still think there's a wall there and will wall jump off of it. Then hold left in the air to reach onto the glitched Zane terminal head. You can also just jump left instead of neutral jump, but the timing you have to hit it will be tighter and harder. If you do miss the timing though, there is a backup. Maneuver yourself onto the top platform on the right, hit select, and then choose the jump ability. This will cause you to jump very high and will give you enough to jump onto the head. This high jump is charge based though, so I recommend using the rest of your charges immediately, as it will be the quickest place to do so and means the high jump won't mess up your boss fight pattern. Now on top of the head, slide off, then walk through or off the next set of platforms on the left. If you get stuck on top of them, slide out. Once clear of the platforms, slide your way behind the curtains to the left, turning mid-slide to be facing right. This will take a bit of practice, but you need to go far enough in before you turn back to initiate the room movement, but if you don't turn in time, you'll actually head to the room on the left, and you'll have to walk back through the curtains again to get to the boss. This fight is very similar to the first, but this time you're at a much higher level. Set up to kill the box, but face to the right this time instead. Upstrike it, let it run into you, and then use your damage boost to slash at it. It should die instantly. This damage boost will send you more towards the center of the boss, where you can just upstrike him to death again. Now, only taking about 3 to 4 upstrikes to kill. Careful with his attacks or the stuck glitch, because if you die here, you'll have to redo all of Australia. Even if you manage to kill him as you die, you'll be sent to the last stage, but won't be able to do the red dragon zip. Now on to the last stage of the game. It'll start with another unskippable cutscene, but there will only be one option for transfer: Red Dragon. When you appear in the stage, as long as you do not die killing Yggdrasil on Australia, Strider will spawn in the middle of his walking animation. Immediately press select. Pick the jump skill and immediately jump. But once you've jumped, stop pressing the jump button. As long as you caught Strider mid-animation and jumped, you should now jump through the ceiling and appear in the final boss room. One issue that can happen though is if you continuously click the jump button as you're zipping through the ceiling, you might actually jump back to where you were and cancel the zip, unable to do it again. So be careful to only press it once. In this room, you'll need to follow a fairly precise path to get the quickest kill. Walk to the right and follow the path drawn on the screen. This is the path I personally use, though I have seen others. I believe the most important part is how far right along the floor your path takes you, as you want to hit at least this point, and how fast it takes you to get there. Having done that, jump into the center of Yggdrasil, drop off the platform, and walk as far right as you can, and jump. From this position, facing right, just hold the up button. Yggdrasil's first attack should damage boost you into the perfect location where you will damage him just by holding the up button. After a couple seconds, he will be defeated and start exploding. If he is not taking damage from your location, then the backup is just hold up and mash the jump button. It should only take a couple more seconds than the other strategy. Now, wait until the screen goes black, and it's time! Now let's talk about getting a sub 4 minute run. One of the hardest tricks in the Strider speedrun is colloquially called Airstralia. Simplified, you will be doing a wall zip mid-jump in the early part of the Australia level. This trick is nearly frame perfect, but saves around 10 seconds on the run. First, let's take a look at it in action. Let's break that down. First, you will be running down this hill, holding right. Keep picking up momentum until this point, where the background has a brown platform over the background mountain. Once Strider reaches this point, stop holding right. Because of his momentum, Strider will keep going down the hill, and once on the flat floor, a couple frames in, neutral jump. Make sure there's no directions being held. Strider will launch himself at the wall. When he is virtually inside the wall, you have to press the direction away from it, then pause as soon as you can. Ideally, you should see Strider crouched inside the wall. In this case, hold towards the wall and unpause. This will begin the wall zip. If Strider is still facing to the right and has his momentum, you pause too early, and you may be able to save it by unpausing, pressing left, and then pausing immediately. If it's too late or he lost momentum, you just have to try again. When Strider has reached the top of the screen, you press left to exit the zip. If you hit the correct frame window, you will exit in the room below. While you're zipping up the wall, there's a variable number of frames to react. Depending on how thick the brown line is on the top of the screen, you have a different amount of frames to press left. There's a 0 frame, a 1 frame, a 2 frame, and a free window. The free window will exit you into the room below without any input, but this is very rare. The 1 and 2 frame will only exit in the room below if you hit left during that 1 or 2 frame window respectively. And unfortunately, there is a 0 frame window where there is no frame where you can exit in the room below before Strider just wraps back to where he started. In this case, you just have to go try again. This is a very difficult trick that even the top runners have trouble executing even remotely consistently, so don't worry if you are struggling to get it. This is a fairly difficult trick that as of right now only saves around 2 seconds, but we may find another use for it yet. You'll be zipping across the screen and exit the zip on the opposite side of the room. To set this up, as I mentioned in the zip section of fundamentals, moonwalk into the wall and get into this glitched position where Strider alternates between standing and kneeling on his own. I haven't found any consistent way of doing this just yet, but if you do get the setup, here's how you execute the zip. Hold down the entire time, and then press away from the wall for 1 frame and then let go. This will turn Strider and he will start zipping up the wall as usual. If you hold for longer than 1 frame, or don't hold down, he will just exit the wall. Partway up the zip, Strider will now be behind the wall. You can still see him though through the gap, and you'll be able to see his little blue pants go up. Wait until the bottom of the blue is on the same location as your energy number. From here, press and hold towards the wall, and if you hit it with the right timing, Strider will appear in the room below, falling from the top on the opposite side of the screen. If you do it too early, you'll end up on top of the hill on the right in this zip, and not have zipped down to the room below at all. If you take too long, then you will begin the horizontal zip too late and end up in the floor, just zipping up back to where you started. Be aware that when you succeed, you will actually be closer to the edge of the screen than you might be used to. In fact, the screen might not scroll at all unless you walk back towards the center slightly and then start moving. The newest and most difficult trick to pull off in the run is Kazair. Similar to Airstralia, you will be jumping into a wall and zipping from there, but afterwards the rest of the route becomes much more difficult because you won't fight the first terminal at all and you'll be lower leveled for all of Australia. This trick used to be task exclusive, but thanks to tutorial notes from Bletchy, an RTA execution became viable. For the zip part, I will be using these notes as a source, so feel free to read it yourself under the resources in the striderspeedrun.com. At the end of the first part of Kazakh, where you would usually go down the pipe, jump onto the hill, trying to get the screen pushed as high as possible. You know how well this worked by just seeing how much flooring is at the top of the screen. Once you set it up, run down the hill holding right. Before the screen scrolls down at all, around 2/3 of the way down the hill, jump. You'll have momentum and be launched into the wall just like in Airstralia, and as you're being launched into the wall, hold down, and then when inside the wall, also press left and pause. You'll be crouched inside the wall now. From here, there is a fast and then an easy way. If the screen never scrolled, you can do the hard version using 2 select commands, or the easy one using 3 select commands. If the screen did scroll when you jumped into the wall,
you must do the force select command version, if even that works. Hold right and unpause and you'll start zipping. You'll be pressing select, opening the trick menu, and closing it several times with the goal of hitting the frame where Strider's foot is lined up to the top of the screen. When closing this last trick menu, hold left. If you hit the right frame, this will scroll the screen up slightly after closing the trick menu, and you will arrive in the room above. Now that you've zipped into that room, you'll want to move to the left as far as it will let you. You'll run into an NPC who will then drop you a file. Pick it up, and then you'll have your slide. So, slide all the way to the left, up to the wall, and then zip up it. You'll be back at the beginning of Kazakh now, so jump up and to the left and that'll warp you back to your ship. There is a faster way of zipping here though. Walking far enough left so that you see the wall, go back to that first triangle on the floor, and then hold left. If you're in the right position, Strider will start walking in place. After about 3 to 4 steps, you'll see his legs moving up and down. Let go of the D-pad, and Strider will be moved into the wall on his own. If you get lucky with what frame you hit the wall in, it will zip you up the wall with no inputs. Any less than 3 steps, and you won't be moved far enough. 5 or more steps will move you into the wall, but you'll get stuck in there. The stuck version doesn't require any luck in what frame you hit, so if you get that, you can actually just press right then left, and Strider will readjust in the wall, and pretty consistently start a zip from there if you press the buttons fast enough. After all this, when you zip back to the ship, analyze the file you now picked up, file 2, not file 5, and after getting through that text, head to Australia. Australia will be very similar, but this time you only have 20 HP and your slashes do far less damage. Let's talk about the differences from the regular route. You need to try for Airstralia here, and you should try at least 2 to 3 times. But if you still can't get it, you will need to kill this red enemy, as you can't afford to tank the damage for the boost, and you'll just have to moonwalk through the doors instead. Proceed through the rest of the stage as normal, but avoiding as much damage as you can. Even trying to jump over these spikes, and maybe you might not get hit. For this screen transition pipe jump out of it, touch the left wall as you're falling, and then start heading back right as normal. If you did this correctly, you'll actually have despawned some of the spike enemies, including both floor ones. This obviously reduces the risk of taking any extra damage, and also remember that there is a health pack here if you need it, as you'll still need the 13 HP to beat the boss quickly. The last difference between this low level run of the game and the normal one we've been talking about is how to quick kill this boss. As your slashes are weaker, doing the 1 cycle box kill now is an extremely tight window, and the Zane terminal will take many more upstrikes to destroy. The 1 cycle involves standing virtually exactly in this location, facing right. It's a much tighter location window than the normal run, so be careful with that. Upstrike it as normal, and as you're damage boosted, you must immediately start your slash pattern. Turn in mid-air and continue slashing, going left with the box. Keep the fastest slash pattern here, and follow it to the end of the screen. Press up, and turn Strider to be facing right. Jump after it. If you go too far to the left, the box will get out of reach before being able to do enough damage to it. But if you don't turn Strider while holding up, your upstrike won't connect with the box even if you're in the correct location. The upstrike has more hitbox behind Strider than you'd think. From here, just upstrike the Zane terminal as normal, and you should get through this boss pretty quickly. This takes quite a bit of practice in my experience, so I recommend the save state here if you're using an emulator. And that's it. Red Dragon is exactly the same as the normal run. So this trick saves about 15 seconds comparing it with a normal Airstralia run if you're doing the hard version of Zip. Around 5 seconds are lost per extra trick menu you use during that zip, so plan accordingly. And that's everything. Thanks for staying through this tutorial, and a big shout out to the entire Strider Discord community. Come join us, and maybe we'll even have found something new after this video releases. Thanks Bald Nate for footage and reviewing the first draft. Thanks to Ellipsis and NME for footage and for the race. And thanks to GDQ, Darkman, and GB Poopins for getting me into speedrunning in general and letting me run at an event. Feel free to message me any questions, and I'll do my best to respond. For completion, let's talk about the old version of Red Dragon before the new skip was found. Run to the right, jump over these spikes, and run down this hill. You need to jump up to the platform on the right, and there are two good ways of doing that. Either wall jump off the right wall and maneuver back onto it, or, as you're jumping there, press and hold up or down just as you're about to make contact, and the animation should move you up onto the wall. From here, go up the pipe, move to the left until some enemies spawn. Hold up to kill them, and then walk back to the pipe. Jump onto it as far left on the pipe as you can, moving the screen as little as you can. Start trying to go down it, inching further in right until it works. When you're down the pipe, now the right wall should not have these little symbols showing. If they are there, you'll have to go up the pipe again and repeat the process. If those symbols aren't there, now you want to start moonwalking towards the wall until you're inside of it. If you do it correctly, that right wall shouldn't move at all and you shouldn't see those symbols still. Zip up the wall and you'll show up in the room below. If you did it correctly, just walk to the left into the scientist, skip his text, and walk past him. You'll enter the non-glitched Yggdrasil boss, but as strong as you are right now, you can take him down with very little effort. Just upstrike him. If the right wall had those markings when you zipped, you'll be dropped into a different boss fight with Matic, where you have virtually no way of fighting back, so you just have to redo the entire level. Finally, there's a fancier version of this route called the Scientist Skip. This involves a horizontal zip after you start the wall zip. Get on the platform, slide into the wall, and start the zip. Don't worry about the right symbols this time. When Strider is zipping off the top of the screen for the fourth time, press and hold left. If you got the timing correctly, you will exit mid-air in that room below. If you didn't, you'll just be back at the beginning of the zip again and you can just try over and over. Now once you're in the air in the room below, mid-air jump to the left, slash right above where the scientist would be, and immediately start sliding. If you did this correctly, you'll slide past the scientist before he even spawns, and you get to skip his dialogue entirely. From there, it's just a regular Yggdrasil fight.